You're all blue.
Thank you for taking time to speak with me today, my friend.
Thanks for having me on.
We both had the pleasure of working with Ben on his new album. I wanted to ask you, how did the collaboration go between you and Ben?
It came out of the blue actually. I didn't really know Ben apart from a few interactions on Instagram, and he asked me if I wanted to do a remix or contribute in some way to his new album. And I'm always a bit worried about doing things with metal music because I mean, his recordings were so good and so beautifully mixed. I didn't know really what I could do with it. So I kind of go in a different direction. And I said to him, you know, do you mind if I pull it apart and reconstruct it? And he just said, do what you want, basically. So that's what I did. I literally pulled it apart and completely changed it and slowed it down and turned it into kind of a big ambient epic thing that I he says he likes it, and I hope he actually does.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, I actually do, and I think, man, what you do is amazing. I never knew you as an artist until I spoke with Ben, and he's like, "Oh, you got to check this guy out." And you have to be one of the most busiest artists I know. I mean, just three releases in the last year alone.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's a lot
I
going
wanted
on.
to ask you, what is the process for you, and how does this music come to you?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. Well, I've got three bands at the moment, so my I suppose my main thing is All India Radio, and that's kind of the ambient, down tempo kind of instrumental music. That how that comes to me, I really don't know. It's just, you know, it sometimes music comes in dreams, or I'll hear something and I'll just pick up on it and I'll make a note of it, make a mental note of it, and then that will transform into a song. And then sometimes All India Radio is where it starts, and then my metal project called Observers, I sort of, it's hard to explain. I base a lot of my music of observers on All India Radio tracks. Um, so I'm kind of copying myself, but I disguise it well. Yeah, see, I'm getting completely tongue tied. I have no idea how it all happens. It just does. And then I got another pop rock project with a guy called Steve Kilby, and he was in well, he's still in a incredibly prolific Australian psych rock band, The Church. Um, so that's an outlet for all my more traditional pop rock songs. And
Hmm.
I started as a musician doing that sort of stuff. I actually grew up as a young, or as a adolescent and a teenager, listening to Steve and the Church's music. So it's really good to work with him. So I'm trying to explain this in my head. So I've got the pop rock side of things, got All India Radio, and I've got metal. And I've always found myself a little bit um, schizophrenic isn't a good word these days, but musically schizophrenic. I've got everything going on and an outlet for each one of them. And but there's so much crossover. Sorry,
Sure.
that was a complete word salad.
And then going through your catalog, being a huge Floyd fan, I couldn't help
Yeah.
but check out your takes on some of their tracks, and I find them absolutely amazing.
Yeah. I grew up with Pink Floyd. My got it from my older brothers, and I absolutely love them. They're probably my favorite band, Desert Number One Desert Island Band. So yeah, I just thought I'd one day I just decided to be cheeky and thought, oh, maybe I should do a Pink Floyd cover and give it my own little spin. And yeah, it kind of worked out pretty good actually. And I'm a bit wary of doing covers of iconic bands like that, but people seem to like it, and I didn't offend anyone, so that's good.
wanted to talk to you about Tranquil Motion for a while. Um,
Mm,
I had good chance to go through the album, and what I love about your music is whether it's intentional or not. When I hear
mm.
it, it's very cinematic in feel, and this album gives me a feel of space and space travel. And I wanted to know if in any way was it inspired by the recent you know, we're now making regular trips into space, and we're starting to launch all these things. Was that part of the inspiration of that album?
It could be in the background, but not the recent space exploration things. It's more of the older stuff, the Apollo missions. Again, I was we watched that in my family, the moon landing. I was only about 4 or 5 years old, but I do remember it on TV. So space and spacey stuff and sci-fi has always been a huge part of my life. And I've got a couple of blogs and social media um, posts where I post sci-fi art that I love. So that is always in the background of what I do. And I love to put sci-fi looking images on my front covers, just because that's what I like to do, and it works. So there's definitely an inspiration there for sure.
And I wanted to ask you as well, because your music is so vivid in the images that it creates. I wanted to ask you, just throughout your career, have you thought of doing a actual video accompaniment to a full album?
Oh wow, that'd be great. Yeah, I have thought about it, but uh, cost. um,
Yes.
I'd love to do because that would be like a full length movie, really. So I mean, I've done videos for individual songs, but a full album would be fantastic. It's a fantastic idea, but I don't think I'd ever be able to afford it. It's hard enough paying for just one or two videos these days. But something I'd love to do. That and soundtrack work um, would be something. Well, it's a bit of a dream, really, but you never know.
You you could take me back in time and tell me how your musical development started. At what age did you begin?
Oh wow. Yeah, I can tell you exactly. I was 15 years old. My older sister had a guitar that she'd stopped playing, so that was just lying around the house. And I picked that up one day and just started trying to work out the chords. I'm still trying to work out the chords, but I just taught myself the basics, and it kind of went from there. And then myself and some school friends, we started, the usual school band and played some questionable music for a few years. It was actually pretty good. And then sort of grew up, started another band in the late 80s and the 90s and got a little bit serious about that. Had a brief 5-minute fame and tour of America. And that, of course, that was during the grunge years, but that all fell apart. And then I started All India Radio in the last couple of years of the 90s, and I've been doing that ever since then. So that's and I finally found what I wanted to do with All India Radio. And then as I said before, I've kind of splintered off into other side projects um, to keep my mind occupied and and stop me from going stale, I suppose.
When you when you're not working on music, which it appears to be not very often, but when you're not, um, what are some things you like to do in your free time?
Um, I collect sci-fi books. I don't know if you can see, but in the background, where's my finger? In the background, oh, there's a bookshelf there, but
Yes.
behind these mattresses is a whole bookshelf of sci-fi books. So I buy a lot of them I've had since I was a kid, but I've been collecting them ever since. Unfortunately, they're really expensive now. I mean, you used to be able to buy these things in charity shops for 50 cents or $1, but now you're lucky if you can get something under $50. Anyway, that's what I do. I love doing that, tracking down old sci-fi books and magazines and things that I could relate to when I was a kid. Apart from that, I don't really do much else. My wife has the real job, so I'm very, very lucky to be able to spend most of my time doing music, basically, which is I feel very privileged and happy that I can do that.
I wanted to ask you, speaking of you're working on music, what's the next step for you?
Well, I've got All Indie Radio has been on hiatus. I thought that I'd reached the end of the road with it, basically. I lost my mojo, but that's come back in the last couple of years. That was it, and that was at the end of COVID when everyone was feeling a bit shit. So I've got my mojo back. There's a new album coming, and I've got a new album for Observers, my metal project. That's all in the can, just waiting to be mixed. And I've got a new album with Steve Kilbey coming out at some point this year too. So it's all happening again. And after that, I've got something that I hope happens, but I don't want to get my hopes up too much. But if that doesn't happen, then I've got other things I can do musically. So there's a lot going on, and I'm just milking it while I'm healthy and my brain's working, basically. So I'll just keep going until I drop.
As well, speaking of your releases, what is the best way to get a copy of your music or any merchandising that you have?
I think Bandcamp is the best place at the moment. So it's I don't know the address, All Indie Radio at Bandcamp or something like that. People will know how to find it. Yeah, Bandcamp is the best place I find. And of course, all the music's on all the other streaming platforms, Spotify and Apple Music. So I'm kind of everywhere and nowhere.
And I want to ask you lastly, if you could give a message to your fans, my friend, what message would you give them?
Oh boy. Thanks for putting up with me for the last few years. And if you've been following me closely, you'll know about my self-doubts and about whether I can go on musically. And I think I've turned that corner. So I just want to say thank you for sticking with me. And there's a lot more good music to come. And thank you.
Well, I wanted to take a moment personally to thank you for your music because I find it truly amazing and so visual. I when Ben introduced me to you, I was like, well, at first few seconds, I'm like, oh man, I don't know, I'm metalhead if I can get into this and that, and it totally took me. By the second track, I'm like wanting more and more, and I've been just going through your catalog, and it's absolutely amazing. Your ability to compose is absolutely fantastic, my friend.
Well, thank you, and thanks, Ben.
My friend, and you have a great rest of your day, my friend. It's day for you, right? It's 11.
Right, yeah.
It's night. I'm getting ready to finish off my night, but you have a great day, my friend.
Well, thanks a lot for having me on, Bob.
All right, you take care, my friend.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.